Live, my friend Jim Bowden joining us right now. Ooh, that's a nice little intro
CBS,
right there.
they have baseball?
CBS Sports Analyst, Jim Bowden. Also, we'll get into some of those articles that he just put out in The Athletic for some midterm offseason grades. But JB, how you doing? And being that we just had Chris Sale on, what do you think of what Alex Anthopoulos has been up to this offseason?
Yeah, I like what he's done, right? He's been really creative, innovative. Like he's taken on a lot of bad contracts to add prospects. He's taken on bad contracts to help fix the bullpen, to add some left-handed relievers like Aaron Bummer and Dirk Kerr from the San Diego Padres. So, yeah, I like what he's done. And, of course, the Sale deal, I love taking the gamble there. I don't think he's ever going to be an ace again, but I think when you have a rotation like they do with Strider and Fried and Charlie Morton and Elder, and now you add Sale, it gives them, I think, the best possible chance of not only winning the division, but the World Series as well.
Are they better? I mean, they lost to the Braves, so it's like, did they need to get better? Or are these just kind of moves that, well, hey, I did everything that I could?
No, I think you always have to keep trying to improve the roster. I thought the Braves had the best roster of any team last year in the big leagues, although obviously they didn't make it to the World Series. I thought they had the best team. They had some injuries at the end of the year, including Fried, that certainly affected them. But I think this is a better team. I think they did a good gamble on Jared Kelenic for left field. They're going to give him a chance to play every day. I think that's going to help. Another year of development on guys like Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies is going to help as well. And this is a core that's together. And now you've got, in my opinion, a better five-man rotation than you did a year ago and a deeper bullpen than you had a year ago. So I like how Atlanta sets up right now.
So, JB, you know I always listen to your show on Sirius as well, especially the front office every Sunday. There's a new song that is going around Queens. Do you know what I'm talking about for the New York Metropolitans?
Yeah, Meet the Mediocre Mets, right? I mean, that's what I call them. Really disappointed, Scotty, in what these guys have done this offseason. And look, I love the fact they made the run at Yamamoto. They were the highest bidder for him. Unfortunately, Yamamoto grew up a Dodger fan, so when the Dodgers had a chance to match the offer, they did. But besides that, I look at their rotation after Senga, who I think is a number one starter at this point. But the rest of the rotation, you've got 35-year-old Quintana, soft tossing lefty. You bring in Sean Manaea, 2 years, $28 million, another soft tossing lefty. You're sitting there with Severino, who's had shoulder problems, and watching him last year, really inconsistent, not the guy he was at one point. You make the trade for Adrian Hauser, who had, a 4.4 ERA last year and 117 innings of work. So, I look at this rotation and I say to myself, this is a fourth-place team. And watch out for Washington because they might actually go past them. This is not a contending team for me. It's not a wild card team. It's all of a sudden an aging team, and I just don't think they've done enough in the starting rotation to be competitive this year.
Wow. Okay. Understood. I mean, and they, Stevie Cohen, he's got the money to back it up.
Not yet.
So what should they do then? Should they trade for Dylan Cease? And before I answer the question, that hoodie you have on is just sick. People
are, you see in the comments?
People are chatting about it. I gotta find out the brand because that thing looks comfy and it is good color for my eyes.
I like the what
yeah,
is
I think
that?
for the Mets, I think for the Mets, what's going to happen here is the same thing that happened when Andrew Friedman went to the Dodgers, and he took a year to understand the organization, and he took a year really to transition from a small market GM to a big market GM. And I think for David Stearns, for the most part, he's acting like he did running the Milwaukee Brewers. A lot of his moves are middle market, small market type moves. And I think he needs to get in there in the organization, learn what he has from rookie ball all the way to AAA to the big leagues. And then I think he'll figure out what he needs to do from there. I think they're a year away from spending in the free agent market and doing what they have to take. Right now, they don't want to trade the prospects, and David Stearns wants to learn the prospects himself before he trades any of them in their system. So I don't see them making a deal for Dylan Cease because I don't think they're going to give up the prospects it's going to take to land him. So I think we're going to look at a season where Mets fans are going to be, once again, disappointed.
So, JB, I know there's still a ton of free agents left to be signed, but I think we have a pretty board to show your midterm report card for some teams. So, obviously, the Dodgers are crushing it this offseason, and they keep piling it on. Give me something that stands out that's maybe a little more unique to your report card so far? A team that you either really like or don't like?
Well, the Chicago Cubs have done nothing. Like, I don't understand why you go out and pay $40 million for Craig Counsell, you fire David Ross, and then you do nothing. They haven't signed a single free agent. They haven't made a single trade. And I don't think, I mean, if they think that Craig Counsell is going to walk in and win with the team that David Ross didn't win with, I think they're going to be mistaken here. So I think that has been extremely disappointed. I think it's a shame that more free agent players haven't taken the Giants' money. I mean, they've been in on every free agent that's out there. And outside of Young-Hoo Lee, the center fielder, they have not been able to land the free agents they want. They make the trade for Robbie Ray, which certainly will probably help more in 2025 and 26 than it will in 2024. So that's been really disappointing. And I think when I look at the AL Central, I get disappointed that both the Twins and the Guardians have been so quiet this offseason, really not doing much to improve their teams. The Guardians desperately need another bat or two and haven't been able to add to that. And Minnesota basically standing pat with the team that they have as well, although they have lost Sonny Gray in free agency. So I think those are the things that stand out the most. But look, there's a lot of offseason left, as you mentioned. All of Scott Boras' clients, or most of them, haven't signed yet. He's got the 5 big guys left in Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell and Matt Chapman and Cody Bellinger and JD Martinez. So look, January is going to be fun to watch, and there's a lot of time left between now and spring training for these teams to make moves and get better.
I needed you as my teacher. How can you give the Cubs only a C? They are in the one of the largest markets, and they have done, I get it, they may still do something, but a C? Like, to me, Oakland may have done more. They signed Trevor Gott.
You know what C stands for, though, AJ? You know what it stands for? Counsell. Craig Counsell. Yeah, one of the best managers in the game.
You were thinking going Chicago Cubbies.
Yeah, they landed Counsell. So that's a good move when you get that manager. That saves a grade. The other thing they've done is they're involved and they have made significant offers to Jordan Montgomery, Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman, and Rhys Hoskins. So they're out there. Those guys haven't signed yet, so they haven't lost out on them. So see, they've held their own. They got Counsell, and they're making moves. So we'll see if they do anything. If they don't, by the time you get to spring training, the C will become a D when I give my final grades.
There you go. I like that.
Only a D if they do nothing?
I know, that's a fail for me.
Because Counsell's not a D. I mean, when you have one of the best managers in the game, leadership matters.
Yeah, but players matter more.
Yeah, but he'll win them a few extra games.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, he's the best.
He will.
One of the best game managers,
Definitely,
I would say.
Sure.
Okay, so JB, I want to know if you're on the same page with me, and you just spoke to Jerry Dipoto on the radio, and I feel bad that he has to cover for ownership's decision-making right now, but the Mariners are going to have about the same payroll, right? If they were a $200 million team, which is what they should be right now in terms of their payroll, they'd be contending for a World Series title. They might not even make the playoffs this year. What do you think, not just of the transactions, but of what's going on in Seattle for a fan base that has been waiting forever for a contender? And once they finally gave them one, they kind of just slipped the curtain from everyone.
I think as an executive, you have to understand what opportunity window you have to win. And Seattle has a unique opportunity because of their starting pitching that if they get enough offense, they can go all the way to the World Series and win it. I mean, they have the starting pitching to do it. When you talk about Luis Castillo and Logan Gilbert and George Kirby, Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, and you're sitting there with strong defense up the middle with Crawford at shortstop and J-Rod in center field and Raleigh behind the plate. So defense up the middle, you got the starting pitching, you got a strong bullpen as well. You got to improve the offense, and that's something that I don't think they've done. I think it's unfortunate that ownership is not giving Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollinger, the GM, they're not giving them the funds to go out there and add some bats, because I think if they just spent like 20 to 30 million more, they could put themselves right in the conversation with the Texas Rangers and Houston Astros in the West. I think Jerry's done a good job of getting future exposure, financial exposure off the books, being able to dump Evan White and Marco Gonzalez a lot of their money. The next 2 years of Robbie Ray after this year, he was able to get that off the books. So I think ownership should be pleased that, Jerry got that money off. At the same time, this is your window to win. this is when you can afford to keep this rotation that you have. Things will change 3 years from now. If they want to win, they should be going for it right now, in my opinion.
Cannot agree more. More teams need to go for it and
Yep.
try. But looking at your grades here, former White Sox, obviously, you gave them a B. Why do the White Sox get a B? Is it B because Kansas City Royals over there?
I'll be honest with you. I think Chris Getz is doing a very good job of taking chances on quantity of players. I mean, if Mike Soroka can come back, look, I talked to Alex Anthopoulos on Sunday, and I asked him about Soroka because when he was coming up, Soroka was actually a better prospect than Max Fried, but he was at least in that conversation. And that evaluation was from Alex Anthopoulos and his group. And then he had the shoulder injury, and he hasn't been the same since. But Atlanta, because of where they are in the standings, they couldn't afford to go out there and give him, make him be their fifth starter and give him 25, 30 starts. So if they kept him, he would have had to be in the bullpen. He was out of options. But if you're the White Sox, you're not winning, right? You're not contending this year. You're just building. If you give Soroka 25, 30 starts and he can give you 160, 170 innings this year, perhaps by the time you get to 25 and 26, maybe he comes back and is the pitcher he once was. So I think it's that kind of moves that I like. Look, Aaron Bummer, good reliever, great sinker when he's healthy, was coming off a bad year, but to be able to turn him into 3 or 4 players, including Nicky Lopez, who is a good defender up the middle, will help your pitching staff get better. I think that I like the aggressiveness. Now, we'll see what he can do with Dylan Cease, right? I mean, I think that's going to be telling about the White Sox offseason is what he can get for Cease in return.
Do you think the one available free agent that has besides Blake Snell, that has a Cy Young is going to sign with a big league team this year?
You're referring to?
Trevor Bauer?
No. Trevor Bauer's major league career is over.
Done.
Really?
For sure.
It's over. And it's, look, I'm not going to get into what witnesses have said or what allegations have said. I'm going to base my answer strictly on Trevor Bauer's admissions. Based on his admissions, there's not a team in Major League Baseball that will give him another opportunity. It's over.
What do you mean by his admission?
Okay, why though? Why?
Yeah, what do you mean by his admission? Like what he admitted what he did, or his admission to what teams are telling him?
Well, he spoke recently. He said he's made mistakes, and just in terms, forget the court cases, just in terms of how he was as a teammate too. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the admissions of what he did to multiple females.
Okay.
Physically. Based on that alone, he's done.
Wow. Okay.
You don't get a second chance from that.
There's people that have hit their wives' girlfriends, and they got second chances.
Yeah, I'm giving you my opinion. That's all I'm doing.
No,
maybe somebody will. I can tell you when I sat in the GM seat and I sat there for 16 years, I gave more second opportunities than I think anybody did in baseball, and I would not give Trevor Bauer another opportunity if I was still sitting in that seat.
Okay, no, that's fair. It's just it's. I just want Kratz asked, and I just wanted to know because you don't. It's just kind of not talked about, right? Nobody will say it, right? And to hear someone actually say it is eye opening because of the reasons he said.
Well, Bob Nightingale said nobody is talking to him.
No, I know, but like to hear a former GM and then say this is why, and okay, but then when he said because of what he said he did to women, but there's people that have hit women that are still playing. So I don't know. I think you're right, Jim. I think he has the arm talent, but yeah, I think you're right. I don't think a team's going to give him a chance. Well, fair or unfair, you're probably more than likely accurate on that statement.
Yeah, that's just my opinion.
Okay, I also think tough transition, but got to go there too. I don't think Wander Franco's playing this year, and I don't think he's playing ever again in Major League Baseball either at this point. With that being said, let's keep it on the field here. Do you think the Rays take a step back this year, JB? The other trade that the Mariners made was obviously to get Luke Raley, who could be a nice bat addition for them, but it's also because Tampa Bay's looking around like who's going to be our shortstop this year. They trade away Tyler Glass now. The AL East is tough. I could see them missing the playoffs this year. What about you?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think they take a step back. Taylor Walls will be the shortstop. I don't think there's any question about that. I like Walls defensively for sure. They're going to miss Glass now. They're going to miss having a one. And I know we can argue that, well, they won when he was injured, et cetera, et cetera. Still, he's a number one starter. I think the other thing we have to recognize is how good the Baltimore Orioles are. And they're just going to get better even if they don't make another move, even if they don't trade for Dylan Cease, they're the team to beat in that division. The New York Yankees are going to get a starter. I can't tell you if it's Blake Snell. I can't tell you if it's Montgomery or Cease, but they're going to get another starter, and they're going to get another reliever too, and they're getting better. Toronto Blue Jays, I have to think they're going to rebound from where they were a year ago. So to me, Tampa Bay, look, I'm not telling you that I think they're a 500 team because I think they'll win more than they lose, but I kind of agree with you based on what I'm looking at. I won't be surprised if they're not a playoff team in 2024.
And then we'll stay in Florida because this team's near and dear to my heart, JB. We know the Miami Marlins, which is in your neck of the woods, made the playoffs, surprisingly, this past season. So for me, this is a team, JB, that has struggled mightily to get a core fan base to consistently care and show up at the ballpark. I think it has to hit a point where there has to be ownership or front office decisions that say, when we allow our fans to go through suffering and rebuilding and all of that, there has to be a point where we spend a little bit of money, especially on offense. And now I know it's going to be tough missing Sandy Alcantara too. But what's your take on what's going on there? Because I feel like they're sneaking under the radar right now. They've done nothing. They might do a little something, but Solaire's probably gone. I'm pissed.
Yeah, look, I don't blame you. I mean, look, I think Peter Bendix was a good hire. Had a lot of success working under Eric Neander in Tampa. I think he'll do a very good job in building up the player development and scouting departments and improving those areas, which will improve the stream of prospects getting to the big league. So I thought that was a good hire. But I hated the way they treated Kim Yang on the way out. I mean, she had done a very good job in the GM role. And all you have to do is look at the Jesus Luzardo trade and a few of the moves that she made, put the organization into the playoffs. And then at the end of the year, basically the owner came and told her that he was going to hire someone above her, that he disagreed with her philosophy, gave her a minimal raise. And of course, she then departed. And again, you saw Derek Jeter, he left as well because you have an owner that doesn't want Bruce Sherman, who doesn't want to spend any money. So you're in a difficult situation. Now, the interesting part is they have a great young manager in Skip Schumacher. They've got a starting rotation that's going to allow them to be competitive. And to your point, Scott, you add a couple of bats in the middle, you got a team that can at least contend for a wild card spot, a team that at least could win 88, 89, 90 games or something in that area. So it's disappointing they don't add the pieces. Then you have the rookie GM now in Peter Bendix, which means kind of like David Stearns with the Mets. A lot of times when you hire a guy in the offseason like that, it takes time to get acclimated to your organization. And before you feel comfortable in making some trades of players in your system, you want to see them first yourself. Again, I'm hoping that Peter's able to make significant moves between now and maybe the trade deadline in July. I think they have a chance to finish in third ahead of the Mets if they can make some moves. But they're going to miss Soler if he's gone because those 40-plus home runs are going to be missed.
JB, quick follow-up because, we haven't spoken to you since that happened, and I was very vocal about it. I was very vocal about it at the time when the job was landed by Kim Ng, right? And she's the first female general manager in sports, and it was covered everywhere. Every news outlet that doesn't even touch sports in the past. Were you surprised at how little coverage the story got on the reverse here when, in my mind, she was essentially let go based on what their strategy was to hire someone above her after doing a stand-up job to bring this team to playoff contention? Like, I didn't see this story covered almost anywhere.
Yeah, I didn't see it covered either. But they didn't really cover when Derek Jeter left either, right?
True.
I mean, just go, okay, he left because Bruce Sherman didn't live up to the promises. And so then when Kim Yang left, it's like, yeah, well, Jeter left and she left, so it's the owner. And so what are we going to cover? So I don't know why it wasn't covered more, but obviously it was a very sad story because she should have certainly at the very least been taken care of and shown a little bit more respect than she was, especially because of the bottom line job that she and her administration had done.
As a GM, this is strictly from your experience as a GM or other experiences that you've talked to guys. Do you get a exact directive from ownership? Hey, you can only spend $100 million this offseason over the next 4 seasons. Do you get a directive? Hey, we're only spending $20 million on this season, or you got to cut $10 million, or is it a ask and see what happens kind of thing?
Yeah, so every owner is different and every ownership involvement is different, So in my 16 years sitting there, I had owners who literally were involved in every single transaction where I could not make a transaction that wasn't approved. I can tell you for the most part, every team has a budget that we set out for this particular year and the next 4 years. So you look at a 5-year budget and you kind of plan out based on your roster and arbitration years and projections of what everyone's going to make over those 5 years. And they give you basically a set number to work with. A lot of times owners can adjust that number at the trade deadline if you have a chance to win, or vice versa. But yeah, there's a general idea there. But the involvement of owners in most organizations is a lot more than the fans think. GMs basically represent the owners as agents, and they're paid to take the hit a lot of times. Your job is to make sure that the owner doesn't get the blame. You get the blame. You take it. You take the hit a lot of times. So, that's all part of the job. I talked to one GM at the winter meetings who said there was many times he wanted to resign. He said, but now you get paid so much to do this now. It's just enough to stay in the job and to continue to take the hit. So again, it depends on ownership. There are some organizations that have great owners that hire baseball people and say, do the job. We'll give you the freedom within this budget. But a lot of times in this day and age, owners are more involved than people think on a regular daily basis.
Yeah, that's why we try to cover it. I mean, we make sure it's a big part of our coverage because owners run the whole operation here. And with there being no floor or cap, I mean, they're a bigger deal than in any other sport. So it matters. JB, great to see you. Appreciate the time. Great to have you back on. Looking great. And enjoy the rest of the week. All right.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Wait, he never told us what kind of hoodie that was.
Oh yeah, AJ wants to know. Can we get a name, or is it only
I don't know. I guess
one?
it's something called Dior or something. I don't know.
What's that? Is that like a name brand?
Something on Amazon, I think.
Oh, look at him. Big flex. Big flex by JB before he goes off.
Right,
I love it.
Let's go.
I love it. Big flex.
More of that spice on CBS Sports HQ. You can catch JB on there multiple times a week. Their MLB analyst / insider and friend of the show. Good stuff. Good question there.
Velvet.
Congrats.